Hello and welcome to some of the practice questions that we are going to look at. We're going to look at a whole bunch of different practice questions in various areas, and the first one is in the area of ratios and percentages. Now, of course, the question form, some of them are going to be setting up algebraic equations, some of them are going to be, just looking at it from a logical perspective. And what I'm trying to do here is not necessarily teach you specifically the method of how to do every single one of them, because that's probably impossible, but just kind of an idea of how to think about some of these questions. Our first question, a total of $450. Always, by the way, have a scrap paper and write down the key numbers to start over here. So I'm going to say $450 total was donated by 25 employees. 15 employees donated at least $12. So again, before we even start with how to do this, first thing I'm going to just write down the key numbers. At least $12, but less than $15, but excuse me, but less than $19. I'm just going to write these very quickly over here. And 9 employees donated at least $19. And then the question here is, what is the maximum amount in dollars that the last employee could have donated? Okay, so when you're attacking a question like this, the first thing to do obviously is to read the question carefully and to figure out how to go about attacking it. Generally when we're doing this, I think it's a good idea for you to pause the video and see if you can do it yourself if you haven't already tried to do it or done it yourself, and then I'll discuss how I would go about doing something like this. Okay, so now, if we're looking for the maximum amount for the last employee. Now, if in order we've got a fixed amount of 450 that everything is going to be based on. So, in order to get the maximum amount for the last employee, that means all the other ones would have had to give the minimum, of course. I think that should be hopefully obvious that if the last person is going to give the maximum and you have an overall fixed amount, so everybody else has to have given the minimum. So that means 15 employees had to have given at least 12 but less than 19. This is kind of a red herring. This really doesn't matter. In order to get the minimum from everybody else to leave the maximum for the last one, you're going to have to establish the minimum having been given for everybody except for the very last employee. So 15 of them gave $12 and 9 of them gave $19. And once we establish how much that is altogether, we can then figure out the maximum the last person must have given. So if you have a calculator, you can do it on a calculator. The 15 people gave $12 each, and 15 times 12 is 180. 9 people have to have given at least $19, and 9 times 19 is 171. Again, of course, we're giving everybody the minimum so that the last person will be left for the maximum amount. Okay, so then if we add these two together, we've got 251, which means that if a total of 450 was given, and the other 24 employees, the least they could have possibly contributed together are $251. So if we subtract this, we get $199, which is the absolute maximum amount the last person could have donated. Again, so what we did was over here, didn't have to use any algebra or any real mathematical formulas. We just used based on the idea, okay, we want to know 450 is the hard cap for everybody. Everybody else donated at least a certain amount. The 15 donated at least 12, and the 9 donated at least 19. So therefore, their total minimum they could have donated would be 251, leaving 199 for the last person. Similar question, a tank has a capacity of 200 pints. How many gallons would it take to fill 3/10 of its capacity? Well, here the first thing we need to do is, of course, convert the gallon into pints. Because we want to know how many gallons of water, but we're told what its capacity in pints. And they tell you in the question that 1 gallon equals 8 pints. So to convert pints to gallons, we have to divide the number of pints by 8, and that's why we have the number of gallons. 200 pints, 8 pints per gallon. So now we can figure out how many gallons the capacity is. So 200 divided by 8, and if we use a calculator, we will figure out that that is 25, so that means this tank's capacity is 25 gallons, okay? How many gallons would it take to fill 3/10 of its capacity? So really we want 3/10 of 25 because that is the ratio of its capacity. Now, whenever you're talking about the word of is the same thing as times. So this is really the same thing as 3/10 times 25. And uh, you you can't cancel because they're not cancelable, so you can just simply multiply the top, which is 3 times 25, which is 75, divided by 10, because 25 is the same as 25 over 1, and 7.5 divided by 75 divided by 10 is 7.5 gallons, and that is our answer.